They just want to know if I'm one of their cows. And I merely need to know how to show them or tell them, hey, look, buddy, I'm not one of your cows. I'm not one of your sheep. And that's all you're doing. Excuse me, ma'am, can I see some ID? Can I see some ID, officer? No, you're going to have to show, yeah, just as soon as you show, I'm going to need to see some ID and a badge number, and you're going to need to call your watch officer on the scene, and I'm going to need a bond number in case I suffer any liabilities during our interactions. You need to know how to own that cop, because otherwise he's going to own you. It's one way or the other.
How about this? Before I conduct business with you this evening, may I have your bond number, your watch commander's name, your name, and your watch commander's bond number? Yeah, you think he's going to think you're a little different, and maybe you say that confidently, he might just, you know what, I don't want to screw with this person. I don't want to be held to potentially any liability, because these police and these judges and everyone, they've seen enough of this stuff, and they've heard of people getting leaned up, and didn't Gordon lean up the warden of a jail or something
Yeah,
like that?
but they still do what they want. I mean, last time I traveled over in my van, I got pulled over, and I was the total creditor, and I conditionally accepted and asked for the charging instrument and the bond number and to call the watch officer and for his ID, and he didn't provide any of those things, although he did actually call his watch officer, and he didn't remove me from the vehicle until the watch officer showed up on the scene. I was still violated. They still searched my vehicle without any reason to or my permission. Of course, all they found was a handful of roaches, because we're not that stupid to try to travel across country with a bunch of shit. But that's not the point. The point is that even though I knew how to contract, they still violated my right to contract. So I am going to lean that guy up. But
So the bottom line, the lesson though there is, if they do violate your rights, don't fight, don't argue like you said, and then just later on do a paperwork process, which we call an administrative procedure, to get them to agree through their non-response, certificate of non-response, consent to judgment, to get them to agree that we can lean them up for $1 million.
Right.
We're not fighting or arguing at all. We're getting them to agree, right?
Yeah, because even though they didn't have a search warrant, I said I conditionally accept your offer to search my van upon proof of claim that you were in violation of my right to contract and your oath of office, and the fee is $100,000. They just laughed, cuffed me, and started searching my van. And at this point, I am so tired of that stuff that from now on, the next time I get pulled over, all the doors get locked immediately. The window only gets rolled down an inch or two so that I can have a conversation with the police officer through the vehicle. As to which point, I'm going to say, hey, look, I don't know who you are. I don't know if you're a real cop. If you're a real cop, then you should have a probable search warrant, right? If you don't have that, then you're not a real fucking cop. If you don't have an ID and a bond number and a badge for me to look at, you are not a real cop, because real cops are sworn an oath to provide all of these things when asked for. Rather than show you those things, they just let you go most of the time. If you're a stickler about asking for them and knowing how, they ended up thanking me and sending me on my way and saying they had a very pleasant experience. Of course, this was in Texas, where a couple sovereigns got pulled over a few years back and 2 police got shot. So no wonder they were saying that. They were expecting shotguns and stuff. We're just a bunch of nonviolent, hey, we just want a contract, man. Just stay out of our stuff or pay us. So,
question for you. When you get arrested and they stick you in the back of a police vehicle, and then they read you your arraignment rights,
they don't.
whatever it is?
They don't read you your rights anymore. Have you ever been arrested?
Not recently.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Miranda, what? They don't read you your rights anymore. Huh?
But the point I was trying to get at is, then they ask you at the end, do you understand? And then the key word being understand or stand under, like as in asking versus asking. Understand. And no, I do not understand these.
I conditionally accept your offer that I'm standing under anything other than the beautiful blue night sky or whatever. Put whatever conditional acceptance you want to on it. It doesn't matter. They don't even read you your rights anymore.
That's not something I was aware of.
Yeah, no, they don't. They're not required to. You don't even know in California. There is no determination as to which point you are actually being detained. Like they haven't really determined when you're being arrested at which point you're actually being detained, because they don't have to read you your Miranda rights anymore. So you don't even know if you're being detained or not until you try to get away and they're like, oh, you're existing arrest. Oh, wait, I didn't know I was being arrested. Right? How do you know when you're being arrested if they're not reading you any kind of Miranda rights?
So isn't it funny, though, how if or in situations where they would read you your rights, what's the first thing that they say? You have the right to remain silent?
Yes, anything you say can and will be held against you in a court of law. And believe them,
right.
It's true.
Yeah, but isn't silence agreement? So isn't that really like they're trying to... If you want to conditionally accept, you got to respond to every...
You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can or will be used against you in a court of law. You do have a right to remain silent. They tell you that. Even though it's a disrespectful thing to do. Okay, yeah, you have a right to be an ignoramus. But if I ask you a question and you ignore me, how do you think that makes me feel? Do you like being ignored when people are talking to you or asking you a question? It's not very kingly.
If a husband comes home later than he told his wife, and he's drunk, and he's got like evidence he was with a woman or something, and he's home 5 hours late, and the wife says, "Where the hell were you?" And he remains silent. Isn't he basically admitting his guilt?
Yeah, well, if he comes home all drunk after 5 hours, I really don't want to know where the hell he was. Because I assume by his actions, he didn't want to be with me. If he was out getting drunk with his buddies, he obviously doesn't want to hang out with me. I don't really care where he was. All I know is he wasn't with me. Right? Doesn't matter. I don't want to hear the excuses come out of his mouth anyway. He just needs to freaking start groveling and accept that he was wrong by not telling me where he was or being with me, right? Doesn't really matter what he says at that point. He was out 5 hours past due, and I was worried about him. I thought he could have been dead. It doesn't matter where he was or what he was doing. He could have a perfectly valid excuse. He needs to start begging forgiveness.
I know as far as me, I've been very thankful for all the information. I don't have any more questions at this point. So I don't know if you guys still need me on the phone, or we'll do some more videos on a regular basis. We'll post them up on the website. People watching the video can visit the website, Understand Contract Law, and youwin.com. And we'll do some more videos with Crystal at a later date. How's that sound?
Yeah, that sounds great. I definitely think that this is going to be good. We'll keep doing this.
Awesome. I think it sounds great too. All right, I'll see you guys later then.
Okay, have a good night, everybody.